Hi, Black Cat Dave here, and I finally finished my mumming machine. And here it is. This car took me between 3 to 4 months to build. This is actually the AMT glow-in-the-dark version of this kit. This car has been molded ever since the 70s when it was originally made by MPC. So with that being said, there's some major mold lines on this kit. And I'm not lying to you guys when I'm telling you guys there's mold lines. So after many hours of sitting down with an exacto knife and sandpaper, I got the car to turn out the way I wanted to, as far as just shaving it down, smoothing everything out. This car was somewhat of a headache, and the main reason why it was a headache was because it being a glow-in-the-dark kit, I wanted it to follow the same color scheme as the one that was built by Jack Kempney back in the 70s, but I also wanted it to still be a glow-in-the-dark model. So with this being a glow-in-the-dark model, the entire kit is all glow-in-the-dark plastic except for the chrome pieces. On my model, the head, the hands, king tut, my brake drums, the body, all the hieroglyphics, the pyramid at the back, and even my suspension glows. That was not an easy task to make happen. That was just some trial and error. So I used clear paints and transparent paints. My body is a transparent red Testors spray paint. That was just a single coat. Clear Tamiya, yellow, blue, red. That's pretty much the majority of my colors. I did use some enamels. That was mainly on the motor and everything. I mixed some of my Melatow chrome and some of my clear blue, and they actually created this baby blue color under the air breather. I had to sit with an exacto knife for an hour, just slowly going back over the air breather and just trying to reshape everything. And the air breather too, it's a sarcophagus. It had feet. I didn't like that little bit of JB Weld, molded it into place, shaped it, and did some shadow work on it, and then when I painted it clear yellow, ta-da, it worked. It all blends in, so that looks like an actual sarcophagus. I also used gold leaf on the tub and the headers. I did wire up the motor. The finks on the side, they were a little bit mold lines. They have faces on them, but they kind of look like a cyclops smirking, so I didn't do no shadowing or anything on the faces. The transparent paint, I originally painted the body up and everything, and then I was sitting down next to the black light, going over all the hieroglyphics to bring everything out, and I just happened to look over, and I noticed the body of the car was actually glowing this really cool, eerie red. And I got looking at it, and all the panel lines on the car were glowing. So with a black light, the body glows eerie red. All the panel lines show through as far as the yellow. It was just a simple mistake, and it worked. My hubcaps, not my hubcaps, well actually the hubcaps, I had to sit down with a little fine drill and drill each one of them out because they pretty much were a solid plastic. The inside of my tires, they look like they're black, but actually what that is, that's actually just glow-in-the-dark plastic. I drew some black lines on there. Well, actually I carved them out, then I painted them. So I kind of give this swirl look, but to the naked eye, it looks black, and then the black light hits it, or at nighttime, it glows. So all in all, nice kit. There were some headaches as far as like trying to get tut to balance and everything, and position them in the, get them into position. The mummy head is a pain. And the reason why it's a pain is between trying to sit in the tub and trying to get it perfect, the tongue is not going to be perfect. So there's also a nice mold line on this guy. So first off, the directions will tell you, glue the tongue in, then put the head over top of that and everything. Don't do that. Just work on the head separate. And the reason why I'm going to tell you guys you got to do it separate is when mine was still 2 pieces of plastic, I glued the tongue into place. I put the head together, and as the glue was setting up and drying, I kept the head in the tub and kept pushing on it, pushing the tongue down, getting everything to balance and everything. So as the head being wrapped up with a rubber band, everything sat up, everything leveled out perfect. The tongue, the head, everything. Another thing was on the head. When it comes to the tongue has a nasty gap under there, so I just trimmed up some glow-in-the-dark plastic, glued it up, put it underneath the tongue, created a solid foundation. That fixed one of my headaches was the tongue, so everything is glued on the head, so that's solid. When it came to gluing the head permanent, what I did was I went over this with model glue, thin line, and I rubber banded it so everything was gluing and setting up and everything. And I noticed the jaw kept popping out of place on both sides. So what I did was I kept going over the jaw, kept popping it back in place till everything set and glued into place and everything as far as becoming nice and solid. After everything was glued, I removed the rubber bands. I went back over this with an exacto knife and I trimmed every single sharp piece of plastic and that mold line and everything around it, so everything is nice and smooth. Another thing I did too was I didn't use no putties or anything like that because of this being a glow-in-the-dark model. I didn't want any of those lines to show through black. When it came down to the bandages, I glued them into place. So they are glued to the side here and to here. Try to help divert your eye from seeing that mold line. Another thing is, because of me using a flat black enamel wash on this guy, the shadows help you out as far as not seeing the mold line. Another thing is too is after everything was done, I went back over this with a little bit of the flat black paint and I kept tacking up some of the shadows, just trying to blend it in, trying to hide it. The reason why I didn't take sandpaper and just sand this down and everything, because all these bandages on the head have texture to them. There's texture on them and everything. So when this is actually shown under a black light and the whole kit glows, you actually see all the detail, everything on this guy. So he shows out really cool. So during the day you see him like this. At night he glows. Under the black light he really illuminates. But it took me a long time. Another thing is too is on this car I wanted to make it look like the real car. I didn't want to paint it purple like what's on the box behind me. So what I did was I started looking up the mummy machine and everything. And there's a couple photos of the real car. But the real car was built back in the 70s. It was built by a man named Jack Kempney. But when it came to this car really looks cool. I didn't want to paint the head up and everything because, like I said, it's a glow-in-the-dark model. So I still want it to be a glow-in-the-dark model. But I also want it to look like the real car. So I tried to combine my two ideas, which was glow-in-the-dark and real car, and I think it shows out nice. So this is a cool model, this is a vintage model, whatever you want to call it. So have fun, build this thing. You guys can paint this up however you want it, but this is my version of it, this is my idea. So bye, thanks for watching, here's a bunch of photos of the build.